AskReddit by Radiant Search 7441. What claims are just not backed by the historical facts? Einstein being a low-level student, his grades were average to top tier of the class, and he was pretty damn good academically. Part of the reason this myth came about is that in Germany 1 is the best grade and 6 is the worst grade. In Switzerland, where he went to school, it is exactly the other way around and 6 is the best grade. I'm sick of curriculum materials teaching my 4th graders that the Spanish discovered Florida when they were looking for the fountain of youth. That lie was developed in the 1920s as a tourist gimmick. There's literally nothing in the historical record that supports it. Ponzi lying. Deleted. A war hasn't been fought this badly since Olaf the Hairy, High Chief of all the Vikings, accidentally ordered 80,000 battle helmets with the horns on the inside. Captain Edmund Blackadder. Marilyn Monroe never said, "If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best." There is literally no documented proof she ever said that. True. She actually said, "If you can't handle me at my diddleast, you don't deserve me at my diddleast." That binary numbers were first used by Leibniz. Most computer histories make this claim. But there's an existing manuscript page, https://i.imgur.com/bkw3loc.jpg by the English mathematician Thomas Harriot that includes binary numbers and binary multiplication that was written around 1605, 40 years before Leibniz was born. Edit, spelling. Nice one. That ancient people thought the earth was flat. We have records from around 430 BC where Greek philosophers spoke of the earth being a sphere. In 240 BC the Greek astronomer Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the earth and was only about 2% out. There are modern people who think the earth is flat and they can read the White Star Line saying the Titanic was unsinkable. It was actually a shipping magazine that first called the Olympic class unsinkable. In a similar note, the RMS Britannic being called gigantic. The name gigantic only appears once on an order for an anchor. Every other piece of documentation refers to the Britannic as the Britannic. The Olympic class did more than their fair share of not sinking tbh. Both were heavily used in WW1, and the Britannic eventually was lost to a mine late in the war. The Olympic even managed to have one of the first, and one of very few known, sinkings of a submarine by a surface vessel, let alone a merchant one. Titanic was the shortest serving and least important, and the Olympic survived long enough to be scrapped when made obsolete by ships which basically copied her entire concept. Executioners, hangmen didn't wear hoods. People knew who they were. There are even several instances where the job gets passed from father to son like a family business. They were paid okay but also made side money from selling stuff used for the execution like bits of rope and fabric and stuff. Edit, there's a book called Lord High Executioner by Howard Engel that goes into the history of it and it's fascinating. Also got money from the prisoner's or Thar family to make it a clean killing. More common during beheading. Of course they also bribed to make it not so clean killing. Again beheading. Oh oops, I had a heavy night drinking last night and my aim is not good. Gonna take me a few tries to get this head off. Catherine the Great did not do that with a horse. As I understand it, the rumor was spread by political enemies, but the reality was that she really liked cavalry officers. Edit, I was tired. Vomitoria were passages designed to accommodate large crowds, not rooms for actual vomiting. Vomit comes from Latin for spew forth dart. I thought that didn't sound right. The passage would vomit out the large crowd. That's so interesting, thank you. The idea that medieval early modern people, especially peasants, were filthy, had poor hygiene and never left their villages. Medieval people cleaned themselves and their clothes fairly regularly. They even cleaned their teeth by chewing split twigs. Also, it was fairly common even for peasants to travel to pilgrimage sites on holy days periods. Yes. I just commented this as a main comment, but they also did not drink beer because the water was dirty. People have known for thousands of years how to keep shit out of their water supply. It's like a cornerstone of civilization. Snobs during the Enlightenment decided to rewrite some things and creates the whole Dark Ages mythology. Deleted. Fuck yeah. That ancient humans were dumb. What if it's being said on the basis that present day humans are also dumb? I heard recently that the reason Columbus had trouble finding funding for his voyages had nothing to do with the powers that be believing the earth was flat. In fact, it was pretty well accepted by that point that it was spherical. However, they believed it was much bigger than Columbus believed it was, and that there would be nothing but ocean for thousands of miles. They thought the journey would cost much more than he was trying to say. He was wrong, and the fact that he ran into the Americas was just luck for him. Witch burning were daily occurrences in the Middle Age. I blame Da Vinci Code. Witch hunts didn't even start until after the Middle Ages. Young Earth creationism is not the historically believed position of the early Christian church or the ancient church. It's a fairly recent theological position initially purported by Seventh-day Adventist, but quickly became popular with fundamentalists due to backlash over evolution becoming mainstream. Before that, most people saw the creation narrative and Genesis as a narrative myth and was not meant to be read as scientific fact. Some dude in the late 1700s tried to count the years in the stories of the Bible and calculated the first year of creating to be the 4004 BCE. Now, creationists insist the earth is 6,000 years old and they have science to back it up. And you're right. The rise in young Earth creationism was mainly a response to Darwin and other scientific discoveries explaining away creation myths. That the pyramids were built by Jewish slaves. The Egyptians were good at record keeping and none of their records say anything about slaves being used for the construction of the pyramids. That's what Big Pyramid wants you to believe. Deleted. In fact, it's been pretty well researched that he had pretty much nothing to do with the development of baseball at all. Edison invented the light bulb. A more correct way to describe what Edison did was sponsor a lab and assemble a team that made light bulbs that were actually powerful and durable enough to be useful as a city lighting system. OHH, and also comes up with power delivery methods for the bulbs. The Armenian genocide did happen. No matter how much the Turks desperately claimed that it absolutely did not, the Kurds were responsible, and the Armenians deserved it anyway. And X200B. I wish I had something funny to go along with this. I don't. I grew up next to Glendale, CA, which is a city that has the highest population of Armenians outside of Armenia. I had no idea there were people who denied the Armenian genocide until a few years before the 100-year anniversary of it. At the time I was shocked that there was anyone who could deny it. Now I'm surprised I don't hear more people spewing hate about it. Obama and the 2008 recession. He wasn't president till 2009. That Native Americans are descended from the lost tribe of Israel. They would have to have been, like, super lost, and pretty stubborn. That every woman in the Middle Ages married at 12 or 13 and started having babies immediately. And they did not love and mourn their children as much as we do. That people in the Middle Ages thought the earth was flat. As I understand it with the first one, it depends who and where you are. English commoners would be getting married in their early 20s. And were likely to be the same age. Mediterranean countries often had bigger age gaps, and slightly younger ages, say 15-16. There were of course extremes, like Isabella of Valois, Although that marriage was never consummated, the rules were to wait for the admittedly low age of consent of 12. However, that's an outside case, more to do with the necessities of royal diplomacy than anything else. The claim Mormons make that the Book of Mormon is a historical record of a group of ancient white Hebrew people who lived on the pre-Columbian American continent and were cursed with brown skin for disobeying God, and those are the people who became the Native Americans. Yeah, right. The claim that Jesus escaped Golgotha, fled to Japan, lived to the age of 106, and is buried in a small town in Aomori is more plausible than the entire Mormon canon. Deleted. That book, along with his later book The International Jew, and the film The Birth of a Nation, which was also the first film to be shown in the White House, went on to inspire William Joseph Simmons to found the second wave of the KKK in the 1910s.